So one of your videos, you were talking about integrating with other assets. You went out to Key West, and that's actually the video that made me discover how awesome your channel was. I love the song. People complained about putting music, but I thought it was amazing. But you went out and worked with the Coast Guard. So, is that integration, what kind of, are those detachments, or are those just, hey, good deal TDYs, and you guys get together and come up with some mission sets to do together?
So you hit on a great point. The most fun to our mission, or one of the most fun aspects and challenging aspects, we integrate with everyone. So the only dedicated personnel recovery asset in the entire Department of Defense is Air Force Combat Rescue. So as a result, we work with everybody. We work with different SOF teams, you name it, white, black. We, some of that is depends on where you're at, but we work with every fixed wing, pointy nose asset. We work with a lot of different assets. It's fun. It's really cool. You name sort of a high speed asset in the Department of Defense, and we probably worked with them. Even myself, and not a particularly long career, just under 10 years, have had a chance to do some really cool stuff. In that case, I like to keep some currency with the Coast Guard, and a lot of guys, especially with the civil SAR being guard, it's really good to schedule some TDYs. That particular TDY, not only we're working with the Coast Guard, but we were working with the Navy. We're actually working with some Hornet guys.
Awesome.
Helping, and we take it upon ourselves to kind of teach CSAR to everyone. So we were working with some Navy Hilo guys, because we are a limited asset. We can't be everywhere. So a lot of different branches have their own indigenous personnel recovery, but it's just one of several mission sets.
So you work with the pararescue guys who, those guys, PJs and Crows, are, our elite special forces, right? What is it like working with, because and how closely do you work with them on a daily basis?
Yeah, so one of the misnomers they'll get, every once in a while they get like, are you a PJ pilot? Do you have any, I am in no way, shape, or form a PJ. I was in my nice warm cockpit watching those guys jump in the 30-degree water. But, those guys are obviously all studs, great guys, really, really impressive group. We have seen a little bit of a divergence recently, just with some different mission sets. Like I think they've moved to AFSOC. It's always in between, but I think they've actually gone to AFSOC, where we're Air Combat Command. That being said, we still do work together on I won't go as far as to say daily basis, but certainly weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. We have currencies we need them for, water operations, helo-casts, where they jump out, where we hoist them up, and they need currencies from us. So, we work very, very closely deployed. Typically speaking, we have a crew. So my crew would be myself, a co-pilot, 2 flight engineers, or special mission aviators, they're called, right and left, and then we'll have 2 or 3 PJs. And, that is a crew together. And it is a pleasure to work with those guys. Every once in a while, they'll call us bus drivers. We'll call them trunk monkeys. It's all a healthy rivalry, nice. Of course. But, they're great guys. And when the time comes, they will certainly be on board when it comes to go effective recovery.
Are they guard? Do they have guard, or are they all active duty?
Yeah, so they absolutely, they have guard, PJs, active duty, and reserve. So you have all 3. I'm not intimately acquainted with their hiring process, but it's pretty similar. You screen, board, go try out, and of course their in-doc is really hard. So there's certainly a fair amount that wash out.
So on the note of guard, are you a drill status guardsman, so a part-timer, or are you a full-timer in the guard? And how does that work for you, maintaining currency and stuff like that?
So I've done a little bit of both. I've never been a AGR. What AGR just means is you are essentially active duty on guard. So you get hired as a guardsman. And then from that stage, you just become full-time for up to 20 years, or as long as you want. And that is sort of imperceptible from an active duty guy, except you just don't move, which is a phenomenal deal, by the way.
That's a great deal.
And that's why a lot of guys off active duty really love to come to guard.
Yeah.
At your unit, 10 years, all you do is fly, or, however long you want. I have always been a dual status guardsman, or DSG, but I have spent, I'd say all said and done, of approximately 10 years, I spent at least 5 on orders. So
Wow.
deployments, training, your training pipeline is 2 to 3 years at least, multiple deployments. So, even as a dual star Scoursman, it's a pretty big commitment. And I've had several different sort of civilian jobs. And like right now, I just started a really impressive medevac organization I'm really psyched to be working for. And it's pretty cool because you get to take those skills that you learn in the military and keep maintaining. You get to take them to the civilian world where, hopefully you benefit that organization. I also do a bit of writing for Vertical Magazine. So like yourself, try and stay busy with a little bit of writing.
And, all right, we'll have to put the link in
the
in the description there. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I had a delay yesterday. I was working on an article. I had to finish it up, and also in addition to that, I ran a small business helicopter tour charter company that I had started a few years ago, and ultimately sold to my business partner. So there's some really, really cool options that you have in the Guard, and we have a very, very impressive group of guys. I don't know how yours are, but like we have some really impressive resumes in my unit.
Wow. So how many days a month do they require to maintain your currency?
That's the famous "it depends" answer. It can really depend on where you're at, how proficient you kind of want to be. Like if you're early on, you need to fly more as you get more and more hours. Obviously a 2,000 hour guy, probably a little bit less. All said and done, we have drill weekend, and usually you probably need to fly at least 2 or 3 times, at a minimum. But it flexes. Sometimes you go out there for 2 weeks and fly, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Sometimes you just go out there, 2 or 3 days and maintain currency. Wow. I'd say it's a touch less than the fighter guys, but it's certainly more than most heavy units.
What advice do you have for someone that would be interested in pursuing this path, and how would you tell them to get started on this?
Yeah, so I am certainly an interesting case here, being a Guard baby through and through, and that is definitely a realistic option for folks. So I never want them to diminish that. It is, as I said, the best kept secret in the military. But active duty is a great route. Basically, you just need to get an Air Force pilot slot. If you just want to fly Air Force combat rescue, get an Air Force pilot slot of some variety. And then when you get to the T6, if you're Guard, well, you know where you're going. If you're active duty, like I said, signal early and often. And, guess what? If you're number one in your T6s, you're going to go wherever you want. So, just strive to do really well. Before that, certainly for all the young kids out there, standard advice applies. Just stay out of trouble. Yeah. You don't need to screw around with drugs or alcohol. You get a DUI or, you get busted underage. Like that is going to put a big dent in your career and make it a lot harder to come back from. So also, a little bit of flying. So as the Guard and Reserve look for, at least kind of up the risk solo, so absolutely. Go to your local airport, go fly a 150, 172, just kind of get up through solo. For helicopters, like we know helicopter time is very expensive. Having run an instruction company for a while, is right around $450 an hour. So we don't expect people to go out and get a bunch of helicopter time. Yeah, go get your helo add-on. Spend $30,000. Well, if you want a good interview point, go out and fly one for an hour. That shows us that you want to go do it. That's a cool. Yeah. If someone comes to interviews, like, I flew it. I really like it. It is a fun experience. I'm sure now it is uniquely challenging.
What is it like deploying as a helicopter pilot? And do you think it's more dangerous by its nature than, being a fighter guy or a heavy guy, or, how do you deal with that, knowing that you're troops in contact just about every time you go out?
So it is definitely, I would say it is markedly more dangerous, not to an extreme level, but you do have to be very cognizant of it. And I think it's important to know that, to take it as seriously as you have to. Like, I don't know anyone in the helicopter community, myself included, who hasn't lost some friends. And quite frankly, even the special operations community, since they're usually on board our helicopters, most of their losses are actually helicopters. The DoD sadly doesn't prioritize helicopters as much as maybe fighters. We're spending probably close to $1 trillion on the F-35, and helicopters just maybe aren't quite as sexy in a lot of respects. So we have to fight for those resources, and as a result, that can be a little bit difficult. We at a personal level take it very seriously. Deploying overall, it really depends on the environment that we're going into. So I disappointingly kind of missed right when it was really, really busy. So, the heart of the late 2000s, I joined right after college. That's what I saw as soon as I could. But I kind of was on the tail end of that. So,
Yep.
there was guys who were flying 6, 7, 8 missions a day in Afghanistan, really, like you said, just troops in contact, really, really going at it. And, I think most people in our place to do our job, they want to do that. That is something you want to do. You want those missions.
Yeah.
Now, just a kind of disclosure, and anyone looking to go into the career field, we say CSAR can also stand for come, sit, and relax, not just combat, search, and rescue, which means that there is definitely a sizable amount of downtime, especially, unfortunately, these days, because when we don't fly, it means people they're not in harm's way, but they're not being injured. So it is good when we're on the ground. That being said, it can go from 0 to 100 really, really quickly. You go from, slumber, just sort of sleeping in the alert tent, maybe back in your little hut. You get the tone. You're expected to be off the ground and airborne, from a dead sleep in, 10 minutes or less potentially.
Ooh.
And you're flying on night vision goggles at 50 feet at night, just the atmospherics, quite frankly, a lot of helicopter accidents these days are just from purely flying a helicopter in a challenging environment. It's not even getting shot down. And you're expected to go from 0 to that. So
Wow.
it is, fun in a lot of respects. I mean, obviously there's the downsides to deployments and you miss family, friends, and everything else. But overall, it's certainly going to be a really great experience and certainly rewarding when we do get missions.
So what is your scariest moment in a helicopter?
So I can't pick out one.
There's that many.
I wouldn't go as far as to say, like, I've very, very fortunately, knock on wood, never just been like, oh God, this is it. But a lot of stuff we do, sometimes it's kind of like, Jesus, take the wheel. We do brownouts. Probably the scariest thing we do is brownouts. When you're landing in dust, snow, any sort of light particulate, it swirls up, and the 60 or the pavement creates a lot of rotor wash. When you go into that, you lose all visual references. And if it is, like adverse wind conditions, which in this case is actually light winds, and you're going to somewhere like, say, Africa or Iraq with that really granular sand, you'll enter the cloud at 50, 75 feet. So imagine you're on the, in the T-38 at 50 feet, you just lose all references. And not only that, but you're not going to prepared surface.
Right.
So you're not going to like, a paved runway, or I know this place is good to land. I flew over at 100 feet and it looks pretty good, but I don't really know. Maybe there's a rock there. And then you come around and you enter the cloud and you get inside and have very specific cues that we fly to the ground. But I mean, we'll be honest, it is scientific, but it's not that scientific. So we fly those cues, and when you go to the cloud, it can be up to 10 seconds where you don't see anything. You're just waiting for the feel. The most rewarding feel in the world, really, actually your head snapping like a little bit forward, like doom, like that. And you hit the ground. You're kind of like, oh, thank God. It's a bit like Jesus take the wheel. Now, picture all that, but turn the lights out.
Oh, no. Just close your eyes. It's fine.
Yeah, it's, just close your eyes. Jesus take the wheel. We'll feel the ground eventually. And so that, I would say brownouts are probably some of the scariest I've seen. The next scariest is weather. Weather is what gets a lot of helicopters up in Alaska. We've been flying around at 50, 60, 70, 80 feet. They do what they call tree to tree. So you literally just kind of get slow enough that you can see references, and until you get too high, and then all the trees disappear and it becomes flat light and all white, and then you better have an escape plan. But so it is some interesting environments that we operate in. Like I said, fortunately, I don't have any one, but there are certainly some experiences that have gotten my attention.
That's amazing. Do you do any fixed wing flying now?
I don't currently. I did the T6. I learned my first 40 hours or so. I learned to fly a Scariest, so a tail dragger. That was a blast. I absolutely loved that. And it was a great intro for helicopters. You should really learn how to work the pedals, which is, of course, what you're doing all the time in a helicopter.
Wow. So on a more personal note, I see the wheel back there. Are you a car guy? And if so, let's talk about your cars.
Yeah, so I am a car guy. I grew up a car guy. I always loved racing. I used to do like go-kart racing when I was a kid, and like the really some of the fast ones. My father was a professional race car driver back in the day,
Oh,
so
that's
ran
awesome.
sports car racing. That's who got me into it. And if I couldn't do any flying, and just God for a day, I'd love to go out and be a professional race car driver. But for now, I do
Same,
it as a hobby.
same.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than like I love the flying, and we're talking about some challenging stuff, but I love being like right on the very edge when you're
Yes,
driving.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so you know the deal. Like flying, you shouldn't be right on the very edge. You're kind of doing something wrong. Except I guess for you guys, when you do BFM, you're probably right on that
Yeah,
very limit.
yeah.
Before
It's controlled
you
though.
always have yeah, you have some altitude to work with. If something goes wrong, you can kind of descend. Whereas if you get it wrong in a car, the wall is one
Oh,
tenth of a second away, and
yeah. Well,
so.
and
Oh,
I
sorry.
when we do like I've done racing, and it's like it reminds me of formation flying because you're so close to another car, and it's like this is just like flying fingertip for an hour.
Yeah, and it's fun because you have to outthink the competition. Like when you're driving, you're not only you driving your car, or like in the case of BFM, flying your jet, but you're also having to outthink that other. And so I absolutely love that. Right now, I've been running an old E36 M3,
Oh,
so like
cool.
a mid '90s M3. Yeah, I love that car. Just got a 997, so like mid 2000s 911,
Nice.
that may turn into. I think we found too nice of a car to make a track car. You may know the battle, but you don't want to turn like really nice street car and turn it into a track
Oh, I
car. So
know.
I'm in between cars right now. COVID's unfortunately shut everything down for now, but I'm looking forward to getting back out on the track.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate. Oh, last thing. Do you have any advice for mover? Because I'm going to start helo lessons hopefully in a couple days. So, what do I do to not die?
Okay, so rule one, take it seriously, but you're not gonna have any problem. You're a professional. Although I have seen some of your videos, and you don't get. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, a
Read
lot
the
of people don't
manual.
understand. Yeah, who does that? A lot of people don't understand with aviators. Like more casual people appear tends to be the better they are. Like guys who seem really casual, like when you really get them in a professional environment, you can tell they get that edge, and that may not be readily apparent to folks from the outside. But anyway, yeah, I know you'll do that. And the biggest advice I would give you, coming from fixed wing, especially a fighter background, and we've seen this with some guys who switched, struggle a little bit, is being very gentle. There's a lot more finesse. So, obviously fixed wing, you fly the Iron Cross. I don't, your followers may be aware of that, but basically you move in these really violent, 90 degrees left, 90 degrees right, full aft. There's not a lot of quartering. So the cyclic exists in more than just the left, right,
It's not
or
binary.
aft.
Yeah.
There's actually a back right and back left. Become very acquainted with that. And what is a big throw in a helicopter would seem infinitesimal in a fixed wing aircraft. So being very gentle, and also don't manhandle the controls. Use very light touch. Like at Fort Rucker, our instructors would literally just put one hand or one finger on the top, and they would just hover like this. Meanwhile, you're death gripping all over the place, drifting left and right. Yeah, so that finesse and just being smooth is the best advice I can give you. And also, you don't have to worry about stalling as you slow down on the approach. So.
Well, I've got a lot of DCS experience, so I'm pretty sure I'm ready. I don't.
I jokingly, people write under all my my YouTube videos, they're like, "Oh, this looks like me in Arma," and I'm like, "Well, I actually for years and years played Battlefield before I started flying helicopters, and I would attribute that to
Did you really?
shortening the curve, learning how to hover. Yeah, it's just it gets it in your brain, the certain control movement. So simulators are a valuable tool.
Have you tried DCS? There is a Huey.
So I unfortunately don't have a good enough computer. You wouldn't know it because I run iRacing, but I don't quite have a good enough computer to really run DCS. I'm between places, but when I kind of settle down in the next location, I want to get a good setup, nice wide angle,
Yeah.
maybe some VR. But I love the DCS videos.
That's awesome. Well, so on your channel, is now, you started in Instagram and kind of moved over to YouTube. What's in store for you in the future with your channel? What's your vision for that?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I started on Instagram. I just kind of was like, oh, this is foolish social media. But when I started my business, I had to learn, and so I started my channel, and it really took off. And again, I think it's been hopefully great for the community. Like, we got a lot of exposure, but YouTube doesn't necessarily, or Instagram, I should say, doesn't reward quite the level of quality that you get on YouTube. So like, people want a real quick hit. They just want 30 seconds. This looks
Right.
cool, cool picture. And it kind of limits your artistic ability to really, edit some longer videos, give people a bit more of a taste, or just do what we're doing now and talking about it. So um, as I move towards YouTube, looking to do some sort of longer form videos, kind of talk about some of the stuff we've talked today, go over. And I also, on a personal note, have the chance to go do some really cool stuff with like writing for Vertical Magazine. And I love all things helicopter. So like right now, I had a chance to go fly with Air Zermatt. You can see their helicopter over my right shoulder. Like a rescue service in the Alps. If you ever seen the show, The Horn, I had a chance to go fly with those guys. So I'm kind of editing a video about flying with them. And it's also cool. And I think people appreciate it with your channel to see, sort of folks that do what we do, trying some other things. And,
Yeah.
I kind of want to bring some of that to it
So
as
more
well.
of a,
But, it's been great. I mean, I'm sorry.
more of a vlog kind of. Are you going to get more of a vlog kind of feel to it?
Yeah, I'll probably try and move it a little bit more in that direction. But I do sort of, my favorite thing is really just I love what we do flying, and
Yeah.
I love to kind of edit that together and set it to music.
You
and
do a
stuff.
great job,
and,
man. I'm very impressed with the musical editing. I love watching those videos.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I know some people aren't all fans of the music, but I think most people appreciate it. And it's not quick. That's the thing I'll say. Any one of those videos is probably a week's worth of work at least, of editing. So it's not quick. And quite frankly, one of the cool things with vlogging, I think you can get a lot of the same, but a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
It takes a while to edit, but it's not quite as artistic, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I appreciate you being on the channel. Anything else you want to add?
No, that was pretty much it. Just I will be honest, like when guys, it is nice to get to, when people follow and like a ton of stuff. Like, for me, it is an extraordinary, as we were just talking about it sort of offline, it is an extraordinary amount of work to put into it. And we don't do it for any remuneration. So like when people love it and follow and like it is a good motivator. I didn't do a lot with YouTube for a long time, just it's a ton of work. I'm busy. Fortunately, I have a job now that like I have a little bit more time off than I did before. So, to kind of work on that. But, as any likes and follows are appreciated. And I mean, I can't say I'm going to produce stuff at the volume that you do. You do a pretty impressive job with it. But, certainly looking to maybe bump it up from once every 3 months.
Awesome. 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 Well, we appreciate your story and thank you for being on this channel. Check him out, Jolly Pilot. The link will be in the description. I'll do a title card too. Those are always cool to do. But check him out. We'll hopefully do some more. Dude, you know what we should do? A dual Mover Ruins movies on your channel with Firebirds.
Oh yeah, no, we'd be all over that. And I think there's some great ideas. Maybe when you start your helicopter lessons, I'll have to come out and do a little vlog and
a little debrief.
See if I fly. So yeah, we'll see how you're doing. But yeah, thanks, Mover. I appreciate you having me on the channel. I hope we had some good exposure for our community. Check out my Instagram or YouTube for some more on Air Force Rescue, or watch some of the stuff we talked about today if you're interested. I usually try and be pretty responsive via DMs on Instagram. Obviously we're all busy, but I try and get back for folks who are interested or want more information on Air Force Rescue.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, check him out. Thanks so much for being on the channel. Excuse me. Oh, no. Oh! Been a lot of that. Usually fly with the doors off. All Fox speed. Don't be a douche. That's rule number 1. Make them tell you no.